So the sad reality is most people don't enjoy their lives, and most people don't get every last possible bit out of our time on this planet. And the reality is that we're going to talk about today is it could be over at any minute, right? So what I want to talk to you about in this video is how to build your dream life, step by step. Break it down to the core pillars, the things that you need to think about, plan, and then actually go and implement to be able to ultimately arrive at a point which is sadly super, super rare, where you love the day-to-day. You're excited to wake up. It doesn't matter if it's a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday, a Saturday. You're excited about what the day holds. You're excited about where you get to spend your time. You're excited about the people that you get to spend time with. You're excited about the now and the future, right? And that is possible, but it's not just going to happen. You need to build a plan and execute on a plan consistently over an extended period of time in order to take it from being an idea into reality, right? Let's dive into it. Okay, first things first. We are all going to have different visions for what a dream life is, okay? It's not about what my vision of a dream life is. I'll talk to you a little bit about that to give you some examples and to illustrate some points, but it's important about what your dream life is. How do you want to spend your time? Who do you want to spend your time with? They will be different, and that is totally okay. One of the worst things that you can do, and this is a trap a lot of people fall into, even when they're trying to design and they actually come to a level of consciousness where they try and design this, is that they try and design somebody else's. Okay, so it's totally okay for it to be different. What's most important is that it's in alignment with you and it's in alignment with the season of your life that you are in. That's what makes things feel a lot easier and kind of in flow rather than difficult and heavy and really challenging and stressful all the time. Okay, the other thing is it can change, and it likely will change as those seasons shift. We're going to talk about that. Okay, big life events will drastically alter your perspectives. Okay, so you could be going along, you could be building this thing that you think is your dream life, and then something can happen and you can realize that actually that wasn't important to you at all, and this is the new dream life, and then you move towards that. So this is a fluid thing. You need to be prepared to kind of roll with the punches, so to speak. It's important, like I said, that you find a balance between now and the future. You want to be excited today, but you don't want to be doing that to sacrifice the future, and vice versa. You don't want to be hating your life for the next 30 years for a day that may never come. Hopefully it does, but may never come. All right. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about throughout this as well is, in my experience, if we wanted to kind of sum this up, is these simple and small things actually move the needle the most in terms of creating a dream life. All right. We're going to dive into that more. All right. So a couple of things I wanted to put on the table first. Let's rock and roll. It all starts with, and nothing else matters, right? It all starts with creating a vision, all right? You actually have to sit down, put some time in thought into this. I'm not saying you have to go and make a vision board. Some people are into that. Some people aren't. I've never made one. But you do need to put some actual thought into what you want your life to look like across some key areas that we're going to talk about today. Otherwise, it's just going to you're going to kind of land somewhere by default. And then if you never really, tried to visualize it and then actually go and create a plan to engineer it, you can't be kind of upset when it isn't what you want because you didn't really design it to begin with, right? Nothing's going to happen without action. Nothing's going to happen without responsibility, right? You can go and build that vision, but if you don't own that you're the only one that's going to be able to create that and that literally nobody else can do it for you, it won't matter, right? You're not going to be able to do this without rejecting some norms, okay? There's a reason the majority of people are unhappy. There's a reason the majority of people don't enjoy their lives, right? And it's because they buy into certain concepts and beliefs, limiting beliefs, ideas that the majority believe, right? So the natural inverse of that is that we're going to have to reject some of those norms if we want to create something that the majority of people don't have, right? You're going to have to break some molds. That's kind of along the same lines. You're going to have to do some things that most people aren't prepared to do, aren't willing to do, and you're going to have to do them for periods of time that most people aren't going to be prepared or willing to do, right? You're going to have some hard conversations. You're going to have to sacrifice some things, especially in the short to medium term, right? You're going to need long-term staying power. This doesn't happen overnight. You're not just going to draw your vision for a dream life, click your fingers, and then it comes into reality. But likewise, it's not a binary thing. It's not a matter of like, you have nothing, you have nothing, you have nothing, you have everything. It should be about consistent and gradual improvement and refining and refining towards that dream life and being able to enjoy the process along the way. And a big one, you're going to have to overcome some fears along the way. Fears around, hard conversations, like I said, fears around the actions that you're going to need to take, fears around putting yourself out there and being challenged, fears around, rejecting those norms and breaking those molds and what other people are going to say to you about doing that when that doesn't align with their beliefs. There's going to be challenges that come up, and if we can't work through those fears, nothing else really matters. Okay, so there's just a couple of prerequisites, I guess, that we need to really understand before we dive into this. It's going to be a challenge, but it should be, because otherwise everybody would have it, and the challenge is actually what makes it sweet at the same time, right? So let's dive into it. What do you really value? Okay, you need to take some time to sit down and think about this, because on the surface, what a lot of people in this kind of Instagram culture will say is, they'll say, I want this car, I want this house. They want, their immediate reaction is typically quite materialistic stuff. And now look, there's nothing wrong with materialistic stuff. But what I would encourage you to do is refine in the baseline of your life and make sure that you're really fulfilled and happy there, then layer that stuff on top. Okay, so with the experience that you have so far as the only data to lean on, right now, what do you really value? And then we want to try and integrate as much of that as possible. And usually this isn't going to be the materialistic stuff, as I said. Okay, so for me, it's time with family. It's the environment that I get to spend my time in day to day. It's freedom and choice. It's good food and good wine. It's good conversations with good people. And it's being able to go to the football live, right? None of those are particularly crazy. None of those you need $10 million a month in order to be able to, maximize, right? And I've included some nice little images for you on the side. That's top right's my granddad, Hendrik's great granddad, who lives not far from me. Bottom's Mikel, one of my clients, meeting up with him in Italy, just a few snaps from kind of across the last little while, right? So if we break each of these down, family is family. Really, that's just a decision around how close by do you want to be and how much time do you want to spend. There's not too much money, kind of involved in that conversation. Environment, what do you want the place that you live in to be like? This is where we start to get into some, conversation around, well, how much money do I want to spend? And we're going to talk about that. Freedom and choice is really around the type of business that you try to build, the wealth that you accumulate, and the decisions that you make, which we're going to dive into. And then for me, good food and good wine, that's pretty simple. Good conversations, that's just about surrounding yourself with the right people. And then for me, football's like basically a religion for me. So it's about just carving out time. So none of those are particularly lavish or particularly crazy. And they form the foundation for me. If I get to spend time with my family, if I get to live in a place that I love day to day, I've got the freedom and choice to make decisions that I want to make. If I want to travel, I can travel. If I want to stay home, I can stay home. If I want to say yes to a client, I say yes to a client. If I want to say no to a client, I say no to a client. If I can go for good food, have good wine, have good conversations with people, and watch my team play football, I'm fucking happy, right? Like that's my Zen space. Obviously, we don't want to fall into the trap of getting comfortable, but it's important to understand what these core values are and the things that are really, really important to us to build the foundation. Because if we're not clear on that and we're miserable, and then we try to jump to like the really lavish materialistic shit, the return that we get out of it's not really going to matter, because it's going to be built on quicksand. Okay, so what's the stuff that really, really matters to you? What really, really moves the needle? Okay, that's where I want you to start. From there, we start to get into a bit more of the practical elements. How are you going to actually fuel the design and build out of your dream life, right? It's the harsh reality is that, money makes the world go round. You're not going to be able to design this ultimate lifestyle without a plan to make money. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and start a business. It could be a job. That's totally fine. I don't think being an entrepreneur, I don't think having a business is for everybody, right? Despite what some people may say. But get really clear on it and make sure that it's a job that you actually enjoy. And if that means changing roles now, the sooner you do it, the better, so that you don't ultimately get stuck. Most people end up stuck in jobs that they hate because they ramp up debt, life gets more complicated, they have kids, more responsibility, etc., etc., etc. And if you feel really stuck, I can do a deeper dive video into kind of unwinding some of that stuff and making moves if you're further down the track, right? But you've ultimately got to decide how you're going to fuel this. Is it going to be with a job? Is it going to be with a business? Is it a job short term into a business? Okay, if a business is part of this plan, is it a personal brand, or do you want to sit behind the scenes, right? This is what you need to get clear on really now, because after those initial values, because this is ultimately what's going to allow you to go and execute on that plan, and then the business can flow into other things as well. But you got to start. You got to start here. Then when you talk about business, is it an online business? Is it an offline business? Do you want to have to document your life? Do you want the personal brand? Those kind of decisions. So you got to start with mapping out the income plan first and foremost. All right. Next, the anti-calendar. Okay. Flip it and cull it. So if you don't take anything else out of this video, pay attention to this slide, because this is huge. Okay. Most people try and find quote unquote happiness by adding more stuff into their lives, right? And that could be stuff in terms of like making themselves busier to avoid other things. It could be like getting the bigger and bigger and bigger house, getting the nicer and nicer car, all these kind of things, like filling up the space, filling up the air, filling up the time with more things, right? Usually, if you do that and it's built on a foundation of you not being happy, not being fulfilled, and not maximizing the time on those things that you really do value, like we spoke about off the top, you might get a bit of a blip, but it's probably not going to be that big, and it's probably not going to last that long. Okay, so here's an alternative plan for you. Number one, instead of adding more stuff, let's stop doing that and let's just cull the stuff that we hate, or at least cull as much of the stuff that we hate as possible. Okay, instantly, you're going to be better off, right? We haven't added anything. We've just removed stuff that we don't want to do. This could be clients, this could be certain activities, this could be people, whatever. But just pay attention to the stuff that's in your calendar, whether it's actually in there or, it's stuff you do anyway, and eliminate the stuff that you don't want to do as much as you can. I appreciate there's practical limits to that advice. Okay. Once you've done that, then what we want to do is we want to flip the calendar with it as clear as possible, and we want to fill it with the stuff that we actually want to do. We want to put in the social events that we want to have. We want to put in the health and fitness stuff that we want to do to look after ourselves. We want to put in the travel that we want to do, and then we can fit the business or whatever else it is around it. Again, I understand if you have a job, there's going to be practical limitations. So just, work with me on these kind of limits that are going to be based on your individual situations. But the key point here is to stop trying to add more, eliminate the stuff that you hate so that you're left with a really clear base, and then build it up with the things that you really, really want to do, leaning on that first piece that we touched on around what is it that you really value, right? It's the 12th of Feb as I'm filming this. I just took a screenshot from my calendar for today. Wake up, email and social post, go to the gym, got to pay the rent today, and I'm trying something new, which I'm starting boxing classes today. So that's my Monday, right? I filmed a couple of YouTube videos. Everything else in between there is work, time with Liana, etc., etc. So it's a very, very clear calendar, which if we go back and look here, freedom and choice are key values of mine, which in order to do that, I need clear air. Okay, so that's how we kind of map it out and make it align. But I would take that calendar concept and really run with it, and I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, next one, location. Location's broken into two parts, really. Macro is where do you want to live? Okay, if you've only lived in your hometown, I would highly recommend that you leave ASAP and go see the world. Okay, go travel, go live in another country for at least 12 to 24 months. It's going to expand your vision in terms of opportunity, in terms of what you think is possible, in terms of abundance versus scarcity, especially if you travel to the right places. Once you've done that, once you've gone and seen more of the world, then decide on what you really want. People never leave their hometown, or they take a couple of trips and then they just by default end up staying there. And I was like, well, why? Why do you have to stay there? Maybe it perfectly aligns to your values because you want to be near friends and family, blah, blah, blah. Fine. But for a lot of people, they're like, I don't give a fuck about that. And yet they settle there anyway. Right? So then ask yourself the question, once you've gone and seen stuff, do you want to be somewhere based on the weather? Do you want to be near the beach? Do you want to be in the country? Do you want to be near the city? Do you want somewhere that's kind of got a blend of all three? We're really lucky here on the Gold Coast. I'm on the beach. I can drive an hour north, and there's not a big city, but there's a city, or I can fly a couple of hours south to Melbourne. And then if I drive 45 minutes inland, it's like full-on country hinterland type setup. So we got all three, right? And I'm near my friends, and I'm near my family, right? Now, one of the downsides is taxes in Australia aren't particularly generous. If I wanted that, I'd need to move to somewhere like Dubai. But again, it's about what is of high value to you. So go out there and see shit. Go out there and experience stuff, and then ultimately decide on the location that you want to be in. But get the data to be able to make that decision, and don't just fall into it. And this is why we started with the money, because you're going to need the funds in order to be able to do that. Okay, next one, the Batcave. So this is like the micro of the location. Once you've landed on the location, what do you want your Batcave to look like and feel like? Where is it? Like I said, is it beachside? Is it country? Is it city? Is it big or small? Right? Big places might sound good in theory, but that's more maintenance. You know, you just end up kind of filling that space. Number of rooms, living spaces. Do you want it to have a view? What facilities does it have? Do you rent it? Do you own it? And then how does that tie into your debt tolerance? If we come back here to values, for me, freedom and choice. Right now anyway, I don't want to maximize my debt. Right? That's not my game plan. Investing strategy ties into renting and owning. Proximity and convenience. What do you want it to be near? Right? We're a pretty quick drive to the airport, so when we travel, it's nice and easy. Right? Maintenance. This place has like no maintenance on it, and we rent it. So if something breaks, I can just pick up the phone and go, hey, come fix it. The building manages the rest of the stuff, and it's got all the facilities. It's got 2 pools, it's got a sauna, it's got a gym, it's got a tennis court, it's right on the beach. Right? These were all requirements. Yeah? And then you got to decide on, well, is this going to be a permanent base, or a semi-permanent and you're going to travel, or a permanent base and you're going to do a little bit of travel, right? And then you got to factor in the cost of that. Do you want it to be furnished? How much time are you going to spend here? That factors into your taxes, right? So actually map out what you want the Batcave to look like, and then work towards that, okay? People and network. Who gets in? Who gets access to you? Friends, family, colleagues, all under this. All right. Who do you want to spend time with? Is there anybody that you need to remove? Typically, negative people. Get rid of them. What friends do you want to maintain relationships with? What colleagues, business associates do you want around you? Here's a really good relationship rule that I learned a few years ago. You do not need to get everything from everyone. There's advice on the internet that's like, ditch your friends from high school. They're not serving you, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm hanging out with certain people and I'm expecting that, someone who's never run a business is going to want to sit and talk about business all day, who's the idiot there, right? It's like you can have different friendships that you extract different values from. I have friends that I never talk business with. I have friends that I talk a lot about business with, right? I have friends that I talk about being a dad with. We can get different things from different dynamics, right? So you can maintain relationships. You don't have to eliminate them just because they, don't want to talk about business all the time, right? That's the point there. Okay. If you've only got a certain network immediately available to you and you want to expand certain areas of it, you can pay to get in the right rooms, and you can pay to expand your network, right? As you're doing this, I would encourage you to build an international network so that you can fly to different countries and you've got people on the ground that you can meet up with, that you can go to dinner with, that you can network with, that you can talk business with, that you can do cool shit with, right? Build out that international network, right? But ultimately, what do you value in people, and build around that, okay? Adventures, right? Plan your adventures. Who do you want to go with? Where do you want to go? How long do you want to go for, right? Do you want to go for business? Do you want to go for pleasure? Do you want to go for both? What bucket list activities do you have, right? Is this something that you need to do in this season of your life, or is it something that you could do in a later season of your life? Because your travel will change. Trust me, it will change. Now, if you're, young, single guy, it's going to be different from when you've got a partner, you've got kids, if you go down that path. And then later again, once your kids are grown up, right? What season of life are you in? What adventures do you want to take based on that season, right? Let it ultimately fuel the business as well, right? If you've gone down the path back here of the personal brand, the more of this that you do, the more attractive your personal brand is going to become. There is a genuine ROI on you getting out there, having a good time, networking and meeting people, and ultimately documenting it back, okay? This is what we're talking about here, getting paid to live, right? The documenting the journey, building in public, set the goals, and then bring them to life in real time. This is all for the people who want to build that personal brand type business to ultimately fuel the design of this dream lifestyle. Then what happens is, as you grow, as your audience grows, as they come along the journey with you, you can make offers as your new life comes to fruition, as you get new experiences, as you pick up new skills, as you expand your network. Offers and offer opportunities will be born out of that. Okay. Things to think about: debt, materialism, and freedom, right? And then plan your moves accordingly. As I said, materialistic stuff is fine, but I would highly recommend that you don't do it at the expense of your freedom. As far as I'm concerned, a stress-free life is way, way, way better than a high-strung life that's got tons of debt and you're freaking out and you need to do certain things because you're, seeking external approval or whatever your reasons are. Okay, if that's of value to you and you don't mind living that way, that's fine, right? But layer this into your thinking as you're mapping out your dream life. Right? Use debt strategically. I wouldn't recommend that you sacrifice your ability to say no to a client you don't want to work with because you've taken on a lot of debt in order to do a certain thing. Okay? So plan your moves accordingly there. And then last but not least is change. Okay? Your dream life will change. You need to lean into this and don't fight it. The seasons are going to come and go. Enjoy it. Enjoy it for what it is. Enjoy it for what it was, and then move on. Equally, people are going to come and go, right? Enjoy the relationship for what it was and move on. The business will change. If you're running a personal brand like my business, the products, the offers are going to change. Your audience is going to shift and move. All these things are fluid, okay? There's no perfect endpoint, but the key thing is to start today, start designing under each of these buckets and ultimately move towards it, right? I put a couple of photos there. There's 5-6 years apart, how life changes, right? For the better. It's awesome. So with all that said, there was a fair bit in there. Next steps. Here's what I want you to go do. One, I want you to build the vision, right? I want you to really get clear on what is of value and of importance to you. I want you to map out your plan to build your income machine. What aligns to you? Is it a business? Is it a job? If it's a business, what type of business is it? Okay. Then I want you to work on starting to flip and cull your calendar to be towards the anti-calendar approach. Reflect on where you live and where you want to live. Do you need to go do some exploring before you ultimately make a decision? You never really need to make a decision. You can stay mobile, right? But actually get out there and see it, right? With your house or your apartment, your Batcave, your micro living situation, start designing that, right? Is it time to make a move? Are you sick of where you are? Does it inspire you? Do you wake up every day and go, fuck, I love living here? Liana and I go on vacation and we're like, shit, we're really excited to get home. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you can do. Okay. Start building your network every day, build new connections, build them all around the world, right? This is especially relevant if you're going the business path. Okay. Start putting time into planning out the adventures that you want to take, right? It's pretty like early in the year. Where do you want to go this year? What adventures do you want to take? And start doing them, right? And then document it along the way, align it to the business if that's the path that you're taking so that you can ultimately get paid to live, okay? I recommend that you prioritize freedom, prioritize choice, prioritize optionality. But that's just my 2 cents, okay? Because, and this is a topic for another video, is the person who's free, the person who has choice, and the person who has options is very dangerous in business because they don't need to do anything, right? And a lot of cool stuff happens off the back of that, okay? Lean into the season that you're in, right? And then change to stay in alignment as your life evolves. And then above all else, enjoy the ride, right? Who knows when it could be over. So If you're working towards a clear vision about how you want to spend your time, who you want to spend it with, and where you want to spend it, you're winning. You're crushing it. All right. I appreciate you hanging out with me in this one. Hope there's some stuff in there that you take away, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.